Welcome to Mental Health Without Borders, the global wellness podcast with Dr. Lindsay Frey, where we dive into the complexities of mental health from a global perspective, exploring how different cultures approach wellness and what we can learn from one another. This episode is sponsored by Finding Hope Wellness Center in Tampa, Florida, where individuals, families, and couples can go to receive hope and healing for their mental health. Go to www.findinghopewellnesscenter to find out more. In this episode, I'm joined by Martin Pytela, founder of Life Enthusiast and a passionate voice in the world of alternative health, detox, and healing through metabolic balance. Martin was born in Czechoslovakia and now lives in Canada, and he brings a rich blend of personal and professional experience to our conversation. After walking his own powerful healing journey, he now helps others restore vitality and balance at the cellular level. Martin is trained in metabolic typing, clinical hypnotherapy, and neuro-linguistic programming, and his work beautifully bridges the mind-body connection in practical, empowering ways. In our conversation, we explore how tools beyond conventional medicine can help us restore health, rewire habits, and reclaim our well-being. So, Martin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Really happy to be here.
Yes, thank you for this conversation. And can you start by telling me about your personal journey from growing up in Czechoslovakia to becoming a voice in alternative health and healing in Canada?
I was born in 1952, so that's a while back, and it's the echoes of World War II, and the Czechoslovakia fell under the Russian sphere of influence in 1948, and my parents had that traumatic experience, first of World War II, and then of the communist coup, which was quite traumatic. And so there I was. I didn't know we were poor. Well, we were not really poor. My father was a veterinarian. We lived in a village and life was awesome. Like I had an awesome childhood. But at the same time, I was born with all kinds of genetic trouble. I didn't know it then, but it was. I have the Ashkenazi Jewish part of my genetics comes with MTHFR. That's an interesting thing that you may want to wonder about because it's a curious thing, the Jewish Ashkenazi were quite inbred because of their cultural experiences. They were excluded. And this inbreeding pushed the MTHFR, which is a poor methylation. I'll come to that in a moment.
Yeah.
And that has you quite talented in linguistics, mathematics, arts, but has you pretty poor at detoxification and energy and whatnot. So I ended up with a good line of problems, first hepatitis, then mononucleosis, then liver shutdown and whatnot. So that's a cascade of things that you could expect as being a weaker, more damaged type. Anyway, so Czech experience.
Right. And I'm wondering too, when did you find some of that out? Was it much later with testing or?
Well,
were
I
you
knew
able to
I was sick, but I didn't know what it meant, right? Like I only found out later in life that what that all was.
Hmm.
I mean,
And how
looking
it's
back, I
connected?
can reflect on it and say, that's what that was all about. Back then, I was in a school for gifted kids, and I ended up going to Institute of Economics, studied computer science and business administration. My dad insisted that I should not be a doctor or veterinarian because that was a miserable thing to do. And sure enough, I ended up drifting into it because of family heritage anyway. So I have a degree, equivalent of a degree really, in what you would call business administration. So I think I was 24 and I realized that there's just no way I could live out my life in a communist ruled police state. That's what I grew up in. A fully oppressive police state where about 20% of people were reporting, were on the list, right? Like everybody had their dossier and about 1 in 5 was secret police informant. Very bad news, really.
Sounds like it would be stressful. That would be a stressful
Terrible. Always looking over your shoulder, always wondering. So when we had that COVID experience in 2020, when the police state just blew up, I felt quite traumatized by that because that was like, oh my God, where am I going to go now?
Right. When the whole world is going through that. I know. I mean, it just must have been, I can understand the re-traumatizing of it. you're not the first person I've actually heard just to
Yeah.
bring back what it was like in other cultures growing up, to be told exactly what to do, where to go,
Yeah.
when you can do it.
Well, it's in my genetics, it's in my
Mhm.
pores. I feel it when I see it rising around. I can tell a propaganda lie from 2 miles away, right?
Yeah, grew up in it. Yep. And then so at 24 years old, you're saying, I can't live this way anymore.
So anyway, I left with several friends, ended up in Canada, and then, culture shock one, getting out of the Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia then. We were in Austria in a refugee camp. That alone is a pretty decent shock. And then I land in North America and nothing is familiar. Like European experience is different from the American experience. I spent a good time in a culture shock for sure. But eventually I kind of connected and learned the language. I mean, I came here with the intention of to assimilate rather than not, which is quite interesting because some immigrants come with the intention of just simply using the new platform to get themselves ahead, but stay as they were, live elsewhere, but remain as they were. I
Yes.
didn't want that. I wanted to be part of the society. I wanted nothing left of the fear of the communism.
But you have to learn it, right? You have to learn everything new again at 24.
Yeah.
Wow, what a
Well,
journey.
internally, I was always distrustful of authority. And turns out that they really should not be trusted. They showed it lately.
Yeah, I know the things that you learned and the things that you had to both unlearn, but there are certain things to keep. There are certain protections I'm sure that you kept as well. And so when you arrived in Canada, you were still 24 when you came to Canada. I know you said that you were in refugee camp for a bit. How long were you in the refugee camp in Austria?
9 months.
That's a good amount of time. Were you still with your friends at that time?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We were
Yeah,
together.
you are. Okay.
Yeah. That was a mutual support group. We held one another up. And we ended up, well, of course, we had traumatizing events, arguments, and splits of group of seven. First two left, then another one left. So there was core of us, three only left. I lived with two of them in a shared household.
When you got to Canada, oh, wow.
Then I met a girl and whatever.
The rest is history. Is that how that goes?
Yeah, I had two children with her, raised family. We're still together now.
That's incredible. And so you met her in Canada. You guys have been together all these years. And so then what was your next step? So you get to Canada, you're 24 years old, you're
Yeah,
acclimating to this new culture and environment and reality, really, for you in a lot of ways.
yeah.
And so how do you get settled and what do you start doing?
So I was in a physical job because those were well-paying labor job, right? I didn't speak the language too well. So the first 3, 4 years I was doing that. I ended up in the computer science 4 years later, but the first while was just being a laborer. And the first thing that happened was that it came with a full health coverage insurance, medical and dental. So I went to a dentist and they did a sell job on me. Again, innocent and stupid. I didn't realize that they were not going to be acting in my best interest. So I ended up with a dozen of silver mercury amalgam fillings, which again, I should have known better, but I didn't. I just trusted the professional to do right by me. So I ended up with the most toxic thing that you can put into a human body, plenty of it. And with my poor methylation genetics, it was quite disastrous. So my health experienced a significant amount of decline. Like I was really broken. Like it was a 10-year dive into seriously bad.
And I'm sorry that that happened. And I'm curious too to know when you made that connection. And because again, if you trust the dentist as a dental procedure, it's something that would be normal for a lot of people. At what point, again, did you kind of point back?
Yeah, that's interesting too. So, of course, I started asking for help because I was falling apart. Mercury tends to really damage your connective tissue or just general tissue. So, my problems were first plantar fasciitis and carpal tunnel syndrome, and then bad back that was just going to pieces. So, I would really lose the adjustment, which meant that I was really in pain, like unable to walk. I would sleep face down on a rocking chair, and I would crawl on all fours to the toilet and back, kind of in pain. Anyway, so I was seeking solutions. Orthopedic surgeon gave me corticosteroid. That didn't accomplish much. I found chiropractic. They were really good mechanics, but due to the licensing, they were simply limited to doing adjustments on me. So they would put me back together. But the problem wasn't, well, when you weaken the tissues, it becomes wobbly. It doesn't hold together. So I was losing the adjustment quite readily. So I was good for 4 or 5 days, and then I had to get another adjustment. And sometimes I would lose it on the way home. Sometimes it would last a few days, but I kept going back. Great mechanics, but no solution. And then I started having other problems like allergies and all kinds of problems. Anyway, so I was also visiting with naturopaths. And then I discovered the esoteric stuff. I went into mind over matter. And I was training to be a clinical hypnotherapist because I thought, I need to figure out how this works. So did my practicum and all of that. And then at the end of it, I decided that being in a clinical practice was not nearly as good as just going into sales.
Mm-hmm.
I traded my clinical therapy career for being a sales professional.
What did you sell? I'm curious.
Oh,
'Cause there's a
information
big difference.
technology.
Yeah, information technology. All
Yeah.
right.
Those were the days, 1982 was the year that the IBM PC was introduced. And so I rode that revolution. I was teaching people what word processor was, or what desktop publishing was, or what computer aided drafting was. Like, we were at the front edge of it, learning it and teaching it and so on. So it was interesting. It was
Very
exciting.
interesting.
But at the same time, I had a ton of physical problems.
And so those persisted despite these different changes. Yeah.
I was earning a decent pay and I was spending a lot of money on trying to figure myself out. But at some point, I finally gave up because in management consulting, you ask about a problem. One, can we measure it? Two, what is the root cause? Medical profession folks that I went with or visited or asked for help, they never asked that. They just said, you have a symptom X, we apply solution Y to that. And it's a treatment. It's not a resolution of the cause. It's just simply fiddling. To tell you back now, it would be like rearranging the chairs on the deck of the Titanic or giving me a blanket when what I need is to change course.
Yep. And I understand that. Yep. As a therapist, it's the same, right? So you can come in and we can help them with the topical symptoms. Someone's angry, someone's frustrated.
Yeah.
Okay, let me give you some skills to help you cope with that frustration. But yeah, if we're not getting to the triggers and we're not getting to the history and we're getting to the patterns of frustration, then we're not able to actually heal that. So we're just kind of helping it maintain and teaching how to manage it versus actually resolving and healing it. So I can understand that just from a therapeutic way as well, where we're not just trying to treat the symptoms, we're really trying to create a holistic change, which is why wellness and balance is so important to me as a therapist to go, okay, we're only looking at part of it. If we're just problem solving, we also need to bring in what are you doing to take care of yourself as well? That's either perpetuating the problem or helping the problem. Are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are
Precisely
you
that.
active? Right. So I can understand where you're coming from, where it's just kind of treating, but it's not actually getting to what is going on.
Yeah, so like 1977, I got the toxic event. By 84, I was fully despondent. I hit the bottom, I think, in 1987. It's when I said, okay, enough, analyze this. And I went into research mode and figured out the problem, right? The problem was that the Rockefeller Carnegie pharmaceutically centered model of medicine that simply throws a chemical at a problem is not ever going to solve my problem because my problem was toxicity. I was not needing an additive solution. I need a subtractive solution. I need to get the stuff out of me.
Right.
So found solutions, found what the problem was. It's in the books. It's out there. It's readily available, but it's not practiced. So my conclusion of my analysis was my biggest enemy was health insurance because things get done not because they're important, but because they're insured. They're on the list of standard of care. That's probably the worst thing that can happen to anyone who's in trouble with a civilization illness. The industrial age toxicity driven distraction, or maybe we call it the blocking factors, the toxins or lack of education that are coming through, and they're getting worse with each decade because we continue to produce toxic things and we'll just leave them all over the planet. So children born today are worse off than I was. Anyway, so I was becoming more and more toxic, and I needed to figure out the way to reverse all of that. And I figured it out. Thank God I had the business analyst training, so I could figure it out. And the solution was get the toxins out. And now I can look back and I can say this illness, the chronic degenerative metabolic illness that could affect any body part, any body system. It could be in your structure or in your circulatory or in your mental or nerves or whatever. Any one of those systems, not just one, multiple systems can be affected too by toxicity, malnutrition, stagnation, and trauma. I grouped that in my analysis as in, okay, I can think of it in concepts. And toxicity is stuff that's in my environment that has gotten into me that must come out because it's blocking normal homeostatic repairs. And then the second one, malnutrition, the industrial food is really insufficient. It's just not nutrient rich. It's plenty of calories, but not enough nutrients. So that needs to be corrected. And then stagnation, that's lack of movement. We are now in a sedentary life. I just loved a line later. I learned later from Gary Brecka. Aging is caused by the relentless pursuit of comfort, which if you try to unpack it, right, the more you give in to your indulgences and not voluntarily expose yourself to adversity, the more you decline, the more you decay. And the fourth one, trauma, well, invisible with Wi-Fi and 4G, 5G electromagnetics, but also events, stuff that happens, emotional injuries that we store. That's the soft tissues, the lymph, the fascia, right? That's where we store these things. So I learned a lot using kinesiology. There was new method kinesiology, using muscle testing to identify where in the body it's stored and which emotion it's attached to. It's essentially a map of the meridians, the model, the Chinese acupuncture model, 26 channels, 13 pairs, and each of them attached to a major muscle, major organ, and so on. So there is a pattern. Like if you go dive into it, you will see, oh, anger and unexpressed anger and regret and all of that. Well, that's your liver. Or fear and related, well, that's your kidney. And regrets and grief, that's your lung, and so on, right? Like you can go and map it out. And so I did a lot of sessions, a lot. And we would just process and process and process. It's like peeling an onion, getting rid of all these traumatizing events from not just my own life and my childhood and my in utero experience and my mother's experience. Later, I come to think, okay, so the egg that is going to become a me is in my mother when she is in her grandmother's womb, right?
Right. And that's layered, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Multi-generational, that's on. Anyway, so that's the story as I would say it.
Yeah, it is. It's such a journey of really working towards your healing. You're so intentional about that. And a lot of times that does happen. It becomes then a passion of ours to tell others and teach others and say, hey, we've got to put a flag out there and say this is happening because you had to do all the research and do all the work you had to do because nobody else was. And so, I mean, other people were, but not that you could come in contact with easily, not like a medical doctor, the information that's out there that we all have access to. And so how did that kind of evolve into creating Life Enthusiast, which
Right.
is your business now?
Well, so it was year 1999. Y2K was on our minds. I don't know, most people.
I remember I was a teenager.
At that point, we were not really sure if the information technology is not going to just go sideways. So I thought, well, my children were, I think it was grade 6 and grade 8. Yeah. So I thought, let's move them to a small town where we're going to know our neighbors, where we could grow food if we had to. So we did that. And all of a sudden, I found myself where the consulting jobs were hard to come by. There are not so many opportunities in small towns. So I started a business, and it was an online. The internet was up and running, and I thought, well, I'm going to share what I know. And the universal thing I knew was how to help people who have become chronically ill with degenerative diseases. Honestly, anything and everything other than physical accidents are essentially caused by how we live, what we do. Now it's the toxicity, malnutrition, stagnation, and trauma. That's how you going to pile it on and cause less than perfect expression of the homeostatic system. And you'll end up with either female reproductive problems or high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, cancer, chronic pain, arthritis, all of these things. Every one of them is essentially a result of not living in harmony with our genetic blueprint, blocking factors. So I started building a website all about that. That's Life Enthusiast. Now, what we have is we own a food manufacturing subsidy where we make superfoods, where we try to compensate for the malnutrition bit. We make natural, high density food products that compensate for the deficiencies of what food industry is offering. And then we also offer detoxification tools and methods and emotional healing tools and methods and all of that.
So, when someone approaches you, how do they get started? Because I'm wondering, I'm thinking there's so many people out there that probably have these same questions. How can I help myself? I'm dealing with things that could be related to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Do you give them assessments or do you make recommendations of people to go to just because it is virtual?
Yeah. So, unlike in the mainstream functional medical, where the most common approach is, well, give me $6,000, I'll spend $3,000 testing and the other $3,000 consulting, and then I'll tell you what's with you. We do it for people who can't afford that. So, our test is a $97 quiz that will get you the answer to two main questions: how you gain weight or lose weight, and how you regulate or dysregulate your autonomic nervous system, which controls a lot of these underlying problems. We should get into that some.
Yes,
Anyway, so we
absolutely.
get those answers and then we give a initial free consultation. We'll listen to you for a while. Most people like to take really thorough medical history. I have now done thousands of these, and I'm thinking it's not nearly as complicated. The patterns are just so obvious and so strongly embedded. But anyway, the main problem is this: the mainstream media are owned by the pharmaceutical model of doing things. And with that, people are stuck. They ask me questions of which pharmaceutical drug do I need to take? To which I will say, well, is your headache caused by a deficiency in Excedrin?
Good question. That's a really good question.
Never. Right? Was your breast cancer caused by a deficiency in tamoxifen? No. Right? So we need to unpack it. To give an example, right? Like you show up and say, Martin, there is smoke coming in my bedroom window. So with medical training, I would say, well, all right, we can put a filter on your window or we can put a fan to blow it back out. With the consulting approach, it's, could you please look out the window? Is your porch on fire?
Hmm. Yep,
So
big difference.
ask the root cause questions, right? Analyze. How did you get here? Are you digging your grave with your fork?
Mm, that's a good question as well.
Right? And so now we know it really starts with your orientation, like spirituality, emotional health are super important. Like your thoughts are directing your daily habits. If you dysregulate your emotional health, you will probably be destructive toward yourself, not doing the right things.
Yes.
Anyway, so in the physicality, we start with air, water, food, macronutrients, which would be fats, carbs, proteins, how you gain calories. And that's super important because the genetics kick in. And some of us are oxidizers and some of us are autonomics. And this is important because oxidizers alkalize with fats and proteins, autonomics with carbs. They're each other's opposites. And here's what this really means. To alkalize means to activate the parasympathetic, the healing side of things. So if you're more alkaline, you wake up later and pleasant, but procrastinate. And if you over-alkalize, you get into despondence. And if you really over-alkalize, you get into depression. Just pull your sheet over your head and say, I'm not getting up today. And some people wake up over-alkaline and need to be made more acidic. But if we don't know which type they are, we could just make them worse rather than better. And then the acidity, that starts with wake up early, starts with excitement, and then further on out would be impatience, loss of social graces, aggressivity, like elbows up, get out of my way, I'll do this myself. And then if it's external expression, you will get into rage, like road rage, cutting people off in traffic or just being aggressively awful. Directed inward, which will be mainly anxiety, like catastrophizing future or reliving your past, rehashing it. I should have something different. I should have not this, and I should have yes that. So that's acidic state of mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the acidic, that's the fight or flight. So if you spend a lot of time in the acidic side, you're not repairing, you're breaking down faster and so on. Later, I learned that 75% of prescriptions filled are for dealing with emotional imbalances, which are at the back end of this pH balance or imbalance. So if we get the food right, we might be able to eliminate a large percentage of the issues that are caused by the dysregulation, where we don't know why we are so anxious or why we are so unmotivated.
I agree. I agree so much, which we talked about a little bit before we even got started. And one reason why I created the podcast is just because mental health is not just about mental health. Mental health is also about how you make your choices in your daily life with sleep, with rest, with food, with activity. And we've been talking about this over and over and over with my guests from all over the world, where we're talking about holistic health and wellness to be able to heal your mental health challenges, because people think that it's just a mental health strategy that we're going to give, when a lot of times I'm starting to ask these questions in intake to go, well, how much sleep do you get? How much activity do you get? What is your diet like? How often are you eating? What are the foods you're putting into your body? What is your stress level like? And so all of these obviously can have an impact on our mental health, but you're talking about the really important part that we do have to work together for this. This is so important for me to hear. And I think for a lot of the listeners to hear too, as we've talked a lot about mental health and global wellness, bringing in this piece and highlighting it is so important for people to hear. And you've said some incredible things. I don't exactly know what the quote was, but you said something about the fork in your mouth. What was that quote that you said? I want to go back to hear it again.
Yeah, are you digging your grave with your fork? Well, this should be really a major light bulb moment for the listener.
Yes.
This one. The pH balance dictates my moods, but also dictates how well I'm healing or not healing. And I can affect it dramatically with how I put together my meal. And the levers that we hold is fats and protein versus carbohydrate. And some of us need more of A and some of us need more of B to correct the problem. And so you have to do that empirically. There's just no getting around it. It has to be done by, you try a protein challenge and you try a carbo challenge, and one will calm you down and the other one will overstimulate you. And once we bring that together, now you have the tools. All of a sudden, you're in charge of your outcomes.
Yes, it's something that I love to say too, is that you have control over that. You could start tomorrow. So some people say, hey, I haven't been able to find a therapist in months, but guess what? Tomorrow you can make better food choices and tomorrow you can make better. So it is within your control You have to do your research, do your due diligence. Same thing, go and do one of your assessments that you're offering to be able to get the information, to be able to start making the changes. But you can make those changes right away and then hopefully start that healing journey.
Yeah. Then there's the deeper layers, right? Like, so you can fix the physical, but you still will have your traumatic events that are projecting from your history back into your today and your future. And you have to deal with that. There's no getting around it. Your traumatizing events will follow you until you clear it.
Yep.
And
Until you
that's
clear
stuck
it.
in your body. It's in the water of your body, in the fascia, in the soft tissues.
Right. I tell people when you have this trauma, the visual I give them is like putting it in a box, then putting it in a closet, and then just kind of stuffing stuff around the closet. But one day you're going to open it, it's all going to pile out. So that could happen multiple times and you keep doing that. But if you can just take it out and you can open it and you can work through the contents of it, then you can heal it, move it away. It's not going back in there anymore.
You just mentioned that technique. Neuro-Linguistic Programming is one of those methods which will teach you that you can indeed change your perception. If you make something bigger and more colorful and louder, it will be more intense in your perception. But you have the choice of shrinking it and pushing it and diminishing it. And just, you can actually take a memory and turn it into a little fluff ball that you stomp on and shove under the carpet, literally. And you can come back to it to see if it's still alive or not.
Yes. And I do cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. And so we talk about how your thoughts impact your feelings, which then impact your actions. So if you're thinking of a way, then you're feeling a way, and then your action follows after that. Like depression follows after this a lot. But yes, your perception matters. So if you perceive this as a terrible thing, then your body's responding to a terrible thing. If you're thinking this is okay, I'll get through it, then your body is reacting to that. And that's a different level of coping than if it's terrible, awful. And so how you think and the nature of what you think absolutely matters.
Yeah, here's an important bit that I think should be highlighted, which is this. We're not replaying a memory the same way as you would replay a digital file from a DVD. What you're doing is you're retrieving it, and as you're going through it, you're redepositing it. And so the perception with which you are replaying it will actually affect how it's redeposited it. So you can amplify the trauma, just keep making it bigger and louder, or you can desensitize and you can de-amplify and just make it less intense. So when you come back to it next time, it's going to be a memory, but not a trigger.
Very good. Yes, that's so good. And this is why we all go to work. I mean, did you do a lot of mental health training as well in your background? Because I would think that you would have to
Oh, yeah.
understand these connections.
Yeah. Well, I was my own experiment. And because I had to map it, I had to learn it. So I had to understand it. And so that's the whole thing, right? Like I had to deal with my mommy issue and daddy issue and classmate issue and whatever else was the formative disasters of my life. They all had to be processed. Otherwise, they would be haunting me and following me for the rest of my days.
And so you can say that from your own experience.
Yeah, we all need to learn meditation and deep breathing and the techniques that will allow us to activate the parasympathetic on the way through our traumatizing events, right?
I agree because things are going to happen. So it's really good to be able to know how to regulate your body, how to calm your body, and what tools that you have when you need them. And I want to go back to something you had mentioned because I don't think people would be familiar with it. I mentioned it at the intro and you mentioned it again, metabolic typing. I'm really not that familiar and I'm sure people aren't as well, but can you explain what it is and how it can help people understand their nutritional and health needs?
hmm Yeah, so this was fully published in 1987, so it's quite new. And it's this: much like you could be left handed or right handed, or straight hair or curly hair, or blonde or redhead, you can or will have a dominance. And there are these two dominances that we focus on in this method. One is the endocrine dominance, of which we recognize three: thyroid, adrenal, and pituitary. I mean, you have all three glands, but one of them will have an upper hand. The thyroid dominant people will be slim limbs, slender limbs. They will be tempted by starchy foods, and they will gain weight on their belly, and they will gain weight on carbs. So to them, the keto diet is the way to get slim. And then there's the adrenal type, They are thick built. They are the weightlifters. They're the plow pulling work horses that will just go through anything. They will have larger muscle mass, explosive strength, and also high endurance. They can drink all the coffee in the world and not be affected. The thyroid types, you give them 1 or 2 cups and they're just completely gone to pieces. And the adrenal will be tempted by savory foods and gain fat all over, not on the belly, but all over, especially chest, shoulders, whatnot. But they will gain it from fat. So if you put them on a keto diet, they'll actually get fatter. And then the third one, the pituitary, they are the intellectuals of the world. They tend to be built with a larger head, and their fat distribution will be the Pillsbury Doughboy all over the body. And they'll be the nerds of the world. And they will be tempted mainly by creamy foods like ice cream, whipping cream, yogurt. But their health food are the organ meats. So that would be the liver, heart, kidney, red meat, hunting foods, all of that. So that's the main groups. So they will dictate when you should eat. Like, for example, the pituitary should eat a big breakfast and minimal dinner. The adrenals, minimal breakfast, big dinner. Thyroid types, even 3 meals. Like, there are all these different rules and whatnot. So anyway, once I know your endocrine type, I can easily tell you how you will gain weight, lose weight, and help you manage your physical experience and appearance.
That's incredible and simple, right? Once you know and then you follow that, you just have to figure it out. I mean, knowledge is
Yeah,
power.
totally. Yeah. And the other thing we answer is the metabolic dominance, which is how you alkalize or acidify. So if you wake up acidic, if I acidify you further, that means I'm sending you into the arms of anxiety and fear and agoraphobia and whatever else, like all kinds of expressions of horrible dysfunction. But if I give you the food mix that will alkalize you, bring you closer to the middle, all of a sudden I restore balance. I will give you choices and I will give you the ability to just be creative anytime. If, on the other hand, you wake up overly alkaline, you're late and unmotivated, and you'll be known as lazy and just accomplish so little in life if you keep on over alkalizing. And we can pull that closer to the middle and leave you very jovial and friendly and emotionally intelligent, but accomplishing, as opposed to just suffering the consequences of you being too sensitive.
Yeah.
Right? So now I could have either happy or unhappy genetic choices. So if you are already too alkaline and you're made slimmer by foods that make you less alkaline, we have a happy combination. So in labels, a fast oxidizer, thyroid dominant, will have to be on a very serious keto diet and will be very happy doing it. But a slow oxidizer, if I put you on a keto diet, you will be a miserable, accomplish nothing. Sometimes you will have to walk a fairly narrow band. My weight management requires me to do this, but my emotional health management requires me to do the opposite. So there will be a fairly narrow space where just enough fat to keep me happy, but not so much to make me gain weight.
Yeah.
Like that, right?
Yes. No, I think it's incredible to know. And I think it's so important for people because they're missing the mark all the time. And like we said way earlier, it's so frustrating because I even think today people are trying to make good choices, but they don't even know what those good choices are for themselves. Being on the pressure to get medicine for certain things, right? And I'm sure that's probably something that's hard for you when it's medical issue, medicine. Now we have to fix that new medical issue with more medicine. And then the side effects are going to take care of with
Yeah.
medicine. Where you see food as fuel and nutrition, and it's just so much for our minds and our bodies.
What we do is we strip it down. We ask,
Yes.
have you fixed your water? Have you fixed your air? Have you balanced your macronutrients? Once you balance your macronutrients, then if you have a problem, then we can add to it some minerals and vitamins. Like, for example, a fast oxidizer needs more calcium, zinc, iodine, phosphorus, vitamin B5. Okay, we can get you all that, right? If you're a slow oxidizer, you probably need more magnesium, vanadium, chromium, and copper. Okay, we can get you that. We'll bring you closer to balance. Now, once we balance you and you're still unwell, okay, we can go deeper. But first, do these big things, and then let's discuss what's not fixed yet.
I'm glad to hear that. And it's like starting with a blank slate. So you're starting fresh. You're cleaning out everything you know could be problematic. You're more able to see any outlying challenges that come up. And like I said, it's very similar to us where if I'm helping somebody with their anger and frustration, but they're getting 2 hours of sleep at night, no amount of interventions that I'm giving them is really going to help them with that. And so that's why I have to say, we've got to get the sleep under control. We got to get the food and the activity under control.
Yeah,
And these things first, or else we're just going to be spinning our wheels and things aren't going to be changing. And then what you're going to say is therapy doesn't work. So we've got to perfect.
that's a beautiful example you're talking about now of the autonomic system dysregulation. And if you have somebody who says, I just never can fall asleep, I'll be asking, okay, well, is your cortisol level high in the evening? Let's try some magnesium. That's the mineral that activates the parasympathetic. It'll slow you down. Chlorophyll is the most parasympathizing food. Let's try that. Let's push you into the box. Oh, by the way, oh, you're a fast oxidizer. I actually need to put fat on you in order to slow you down, right? Or if you're a sympathetic dominant and can't sleep, well, then now your antidote to go to sleep will be something carby. And if you put yourself on a keto diet, you will never sleep, right? Like little details like that. And we can figure out how you fall asleep. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, okay, well, now that's 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. That's your liver kicking up. Why is it kicking up? Is there enough fiber in your diet? Is there something going on in your digestive and eliminative systems that's triggering your liver? Blah, blah, right? Like we can just unpack it and get into the detail. And it's all physiology, and it's all removing the blocking factors that are stopping your natural processes from working.
Right. Right. That stops the process. I agree. That's so important. And so I do want to ask you a question, kind of like pulling the curtain back in your life, because we're talking about wellness and balance and all of these really important things. So, what about you? So, what are your kind of habits and strategies and patterns that keep you well, keep you going that you could share with other people? Because I'm sure people have the question of, what do you do to stay well?
Right. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Some important habits. So I already outlined clean air, clean water, and nutrition that matches my type. I have to do that, which keeps me calmer than I would otherwise be. I'm the type that gets easily excited. So I need to do things that unexcite me. Morning, first thing, you need to hydrate, you need to mineralize. So my routine includes a bit of salt, bit of iodine, bit of minerals, bit of amino acids. All of that has to be piled in to just get me started. Rehydrate and remineralize. And then meditate. I like to do a review. So center and concentrate and breathing, right? Just bring it in. And then repeat in the evening. Take on more nutrients that are needed. Exercise is super important. Like I'm not particularly enthusiastic about having to work for it, but it's absolutely required. I have to exercise to stay well, right?
Yes, I think so too. And to get our bodies moving and I can clear your brain and, better sleep and those kind of things. And so what do you recommend? Do you recommend like 30 minutes to an hour a day of just getting your heart rate up?
No, no. Well, my body type asks for HIIT, high intensity interval training, which is you want to push the muscles close to crash, right? Like you want to do about 8 to 10 repetitions and not be able to do the last one. So I'll do push ups until I can't. I'll do lifts with weights and whatnot. I also use a rebounder. That's for the lymphatic movement. I'll do walks. So I don't know. I spend probably only 45 minutes a day moving. The rest, I am here at the desk. I do stand up every hour, stretch and move and walk it off. So I forever have to fight the fact that I'm living in the industrial age. My job is largely sedentary. I'm an information processor. I spend a lot of time in front of a computer. So I need to always be mindful of the fact that I have to get up, walk around, and stress my body. Contemplate this. Your bone is mineralized only when the muscle is tugging on it, only when you stress it. Otherwise, osteoporosis sets in. And your muscle mass dictates your longevity. The greater the muscle mass, the better your energy storage and other issues. Well, the only way you will gain or retain muscle mass is through stressing the muscles. So stress them.
To stress the muscles. Absolutely. I have in the past, have you ever heard of Orange Theory? It's been one of my favorite workouts, but it's very high intensity interval training. And I love going and seeing people from all ages there that are pushing themselves to whatever their limit is, that it's not just young people, it's people of all ages, but you're supposed to go in and you're supposed to push your body at your appropriate level. And then you have a heart rate monitor just showing you where your heart rate is. But it was one of the most effective things I ever had done for my body. And I did 2 days a week for a while, 1 hour a piece with just walking in between for the rest of the week and got into the best shape of my life and just truly enjoyed it. I mean, it's a lot of energy and it's a lot for an hour, but I felt so much better every time I did it. But I just go back to just say I was so encouraged by people of all ages going and doing the exact same thing and making sure their body is staying healthy and well and active and doing exactly what you're talking about, really pushing their muscles to the limit. You've given so many different really positive insights today, and I hope that people take so much with them. But I also would love it if you'd be able to share where they can find you, just because if people do want to take the assessment that you're talking about or get more information about this, where can they go to get that information?
Right. They can read the long version of my bio
Good.
and a ton of podcasts. I have recorded a lot of lessons. Like everything that I'm talking about, I've broken down and expanded. So there's a podcast. Anyway, it's Life Enthusiast, and URL or domain is life-enthusiast.com. That's where you'll find me. And you can find me on Telegram under Life Enthusiast and on YouTube and Vimeo, all kinds of places where you can get hold of me. And the most important, we give away a free course where we teach. I call it the Pain Manifesto. For people who are in pain, they can figure out how to be out of it. Yeah, I guess that'll do it. A free 15-minute consultation or the full test, which is not that pricey.
No, you said $97. That's not to be able to get some answers and get you started on the right track. Plus with the free course and the free consultation. So I'll put all the information on the show notes so people know exactly where they can find you. And if so, there's actually more I would love to talk with you about. So maybe we can have a follow-up episode sometime talking about it. There was more questions and things to get into, but I think this information has been incredible and very, very important for people to hear. And I thank you for just sharing your insights and your wisdom and your time today with us on the show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I really think that I need to pay it forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel the same. And that's one reason why I started this as well, because every time I'm hoping that somebody walks away with some new thing that they've never tried, something to learn, something to research for themselves, to see how we can be healthy and well together. That is my passion, is for people to experience more holistic wellness and not just ignore it and struggle in different ways, whether it's mental health or whether it's global wellness, whether it's physical wellness.
Yeah.
So again, so thank you for sharing your insights. And I did watch some of your videos as well. They're incredibly insightful and they get right to the point of some of the things you've talked about today. So I also encourage people to go follow his podcast as well and dive into some of those lessons that he has out there for everybody. There's a lot of free information that you can get just from his website and the resources that he's offering. So thank you
Thank
again.
you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So thank you for joining Mental Health Without Borders. It's been an incredible conversation. And as a listener, I hope you've found some valuable insights to take with you. Remember that no matter where you are in the world or where you come from, your mental wellness truly matters. So be patient with yourself, take time for your well-being, and never forget that seeking help is a sign of strength, whether it's physical, whether it's mental health. No matter the challenge or distance, we are all in this journey together. So be kind to yourself, and I look forward to connecting with you next time on Mental Health Without Borders.